All right, hey, it's Matt, Blankets Garage. And as I promised in the last video, 69 Chevelle. I don't know if the last video will be the next video, but you know what I'm saying. So, as I promised in one of the recent videos, 69 Chevelle project coming up. Here she is. Today, we're gonna start building tank ink fuel system. I have every intent to make this lots of short little videos, you know, 5, 8, 10 minutes, something like that. But let's give you a walk around the car, and then we'll take this stuff in the shop and start build the fuel system. So here's our car. I mean, obviously it's in great shape. No motor or trans, no sense to even raise the hood on it. Rally wheels, they look pretty good. The paint on this car is absolutely beautiful, in my opinion, for what it is as a daily driver. Or not a daily driver, but as a driver. Here we go. Swing her in here. Interior looks pretty nice. Only thing wrong is the headliner. Needs a headliner done. That's not a big deal. Everything else looks pretty good though in here, you know. A little dusty from sitting around. And there's our brand new transmission cross member. Flip the door shut. There you go. Come on around to the back. And there she is. I'm not going to walk down the edge because it's kind of tight right there and I don't want to fall across the car. So we're not doing that. Then we'll raise the hood, the trunk. Brand new radiator. Y'all seen that one on the channel twice now. Headers and some other random parts, plug wires and that kind of stuff over there. So we're still waiting on a wiring harness, computer, and an LS motor. Obviously we don't have one of those just yet, or at least we don't have the one that's going to go in this car just yet. But let's get building a fuel system. So bring you back when we start that. All right, so here's all the stuff that comes, well, some of the stuff that comes in our tank sink kit. Here's our tank sink tank. Simple. Tank seat fuel sender, that's where we're going to start at. Here's the floaty ball for the fuel sender. Flat screwdriver, don't need that. And there's a fuel pump assembly. We'll work on that in a minute. So we're going to start with this fuel sender, go ahead and get it done and installed in the tank so it can be out of the way. So let's roll down here and I'll show you how you work this. So here's how I do it. Not saying it's the right way or the wrong way, probably the wrong way, but I'll take me a ruler and drop it down my tank right here. And then I'll use that little notch right there in the side of the tank. We'll lean down here and we'll see what this where it's at. I'm gonna have to mark it with my finger and bring it back up because I can't see it. And we are at 15.5, right there with my thumb sitting, just a little over 15.5 centimeters. I typically would use inches, but in this case, centimeters is easier for me to read. Let's just see how inches works, just because I'm curious. I mean, I obviously know how inches works, but don't do that though. Yeah, y'all saw that. That almost happened. So on this case, it is just over, what is that? I can't read that. I'm using the camera lens, which is busted to see it. 6 1/8 inches. So we'll go with 15.5 because that's an easier number to work with. Now, I will bring you up here on the table and show you what's next. All right, so up here on the table, we're gonna go to 15.5 here. So we can have 15.5. So what we're gonna do, see if I can do this where y'all can see it and I can see it at the same time. That's not saying a lot considering I can't see it. So 15.5 to where the ball floats at. So if we did this, we're obviously too long. So what we're gonna have to do, we're gonna have to cut, we're gonna have to move this thing up until we can get this ball floating at a happy 15.5 mark and to where it gets a full swing in there. So let's do that next. All right, so I'll show you where we're at so far. So here we go. Zoom us in a little bit. Let's try to get where I can see the camera backing here. Make sure I'm showing you what we're looking for. All right, so I removed this bracket right here. It had the sending unit mounted on this piece right here, and it was mounted way down here. Well, we showed you that measurement was 15 centimeters. So we'll go from the base of the flange to the bottom right here. Now we know we're not going to hit the bottom of the tank. So now we got to take the floaty ball right here. Oh, something to this nature. I'm going to just have to rough it for us here. And what we're going to do is set the bottom of this floaty ball at just above 15.5 millimeters. Or centimeters, I mean. So that'll be about right there. So then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and cut this rod just a little long, and then I'll come back. So give me just a second. I'm going to cut this rod just a hair long, and then I will come back. All right, pretty simple. We'll take the nut loose, turn this thing this way, And then we'll pull this little test rod out. We'll reinstall this guy right here, and then I'll bring it back. All right, and it'll look something like this. We leave this rod long so that we can adjust everything if we choose to. But sitting where we're at right now, we're sitting at, I don't know, 15.5. So I'm gonna go up 0.5 centimeter right there. And then when the tank's full, it won't quite be at the full, but about 3/4 tank will be full. Empty will be empty. So from 3/4 tank to empty, works fast. There you go. Looks just like that. What y'all think? So now I'm gonna cut that rod off a little farther. Actually, I'm gonna press it up just about another, I don't know, just a little bit. And then I'll cut that rod off just a little farther to where also it always meets on this little bump here, because you want them to stop at the bumps like they're supposed to. So we'll just cut off, I don't know, 3 inches of that guy, something like that. But let's get to it. All right, well, we got the fuel sending unit set up. Here we go. There's the fuel sending unit. If you look, we're sitting just under 15 right there. Just over 15, 15 1/8. And then when it comes to the very top, there you go. So now we're going to gain just a little bit on the gasket. And this thing should be dead on the money. Worst case scenario, I got this thing backwards because I haven't put an ohm meter on it, and I'll have to flip it and put it the other direction. But this should be correct. So, that's it. All right. Well, I decided to pull the thing back out of there so we can check the ohms. And number one, make sure it's going the right direction. And number two, make sure this thing even works before we put it together. So, I'm not sure if I'll be able to show you exactly here, but I'm going to try. All right, so we're going to touch right here. We're going to ground it. We got our meter set on ohms. As you can see, it's not currently reading anything. We're going to read the meter right here on the thing. And all the way down is reading 0.092. Well, that's not good. So let's move this thing to about halfway, like it would be about a half tank of fuel. And now let's see what we're reading. 0.045. That doesn't sound good either, does it? And there's a full tank. 0.001. I would say I have that thing set up backwards. So now to fix that, all we actually have to do is flip the ball and put it on the opposite side of how I have it currently sitting. So, not a big deal. We'll swap that around and then we'll reinstall it in the tank. Alright, so now we flip the ball to the opposite side, which actually works out better because I didn't actually show you on the camera, but when you set this thing in, you'll see the tank holes are drilled at a certain which angle, which is this. Well, I had it like this, thinking I was doing the right thing. Well, when it was all said and done, it ended up like this. So the floaty ball was actually pointing towards the fuel sender, which is the whole reason I actually took it apart to check it to begin with. But now we know the thing works, so we know the fuel sending unit works. That's great. Now we'll install this, and then tomorrow I'll bring you back for building the fuel sump. Of course, for y'all, that'll be just a few seconds. So, having said that, see y'all in the morning. Later. All right. Well, we're back. It's the next morning. We got that fuel sender completely installed and clocked the proper direction. And we know it works because we tested that last night on camera for y'all. So now, here's what you get when you open the fuel pump side of everything. Fuel pump sock or filter or strainer or whatever you want to call it. The housing itself, which is really not a housing, it's just a plate with a couple of hoses attached to it. Fuel pump, zip ties, and a fuel pump harness. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to make this work in that tank, just like we did before. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our ruler, just like before, and we're going to measure the depth of the thing. I've already done it. Ironically, or surprisingly, it's also 15. So let's see here. Bring you in here. There you go. 15 and a short half. So 15 3/8, something like that. 15 3/8 centimeters. So that's what we're gonna do with the pump. We're gonna assemble it just like we did before. So give me just a second. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put the sock on the pump in the orientation of what we want it. I want it like this because if I point it backwards, it's gonna hit the bottom of the tank. I want it to go as far forward as possible in my case. So now we've done that. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our pump housing, boom, let it find its happy spot, lay this thing up here, and then we're gonna have to cut this thing to where the bottom of this sock, we're gonna flip it over, where the bottom of this sock is at our 15 mil mark. So there's 15.5 right there. So we're gonna end up cutting this thing almost off. I mean, almost. So we'll make a mark here. See where our nipple is for the pump, right here. We're gonna cut it off about right here somewhere so it will slide into it. And then we'll have to cut this one here just above the pump sock, the white line. So let's kind of get started and I'll show you where that goes. All right, well, here we go. I've cut it, and I think I cut it a hair long, but we're about to find out together. Let's make sure we lay this up the right way. We're looking for 15.5. Ah, I moved it. Let me reset everything here. All right, we got our cut. So here we go. We'll zoom you in here. So we're just a hair off the face. The bottom of that sock is at just over 15.5. We'll move this. So we're going to cut off just a sliver, probably an 1/8 inch, maybe a quarter. And then something else to remember is that, I don't know where it's at currently. I also have to account for the gasket thickness. So basically I'm just going to straighten up my cut here and we'll be good once we straighten that cut up, and then we'll be able to cut this one to just above the pump sock. So bring it back in a second. All right, well, here we are. Now we have the fuel pump just pressed onto the housing right there. Not a big deal, all easy. Shish kebabs, I forgot something. Not a big deal either. So when you measure it, we're right at 15.5, but we've got this thing pressing up on us and we got the gasket. So now we'll show you how I typically cut these things. PVC cutters. What we're gonna do, we'll just wrap them around the inside lip right here. We're gonna cut it just above the pump sock, just like I said. A little bit too high, but it'll be okay. All right, well, anybody who watches the channel won't believe this, but looks like we're perfect length. Just cutting this one, not even cutting the piece that we cut off. So we'll throw that one over there. We'll reinstall this one back in here. I'll use the table to press him back into where he belongs. A little farther. And there he is. Now he's just below the pump sock like he belongs. We'll find his hose clamp, slide it on, just like so. And it'll sit about like that. And go ahead and tighten that guy up, I guess. And I'll bring you back in just a second. All right, here's our fuel pump hanger assembly. Now the last thing I was going to show you is these. So as you'll see, look, I already tightened this one up. It don't move. So this one will walk in and out a little bit. So now when you tighten this little collar up right here, I didn't understand these the very first time I saw them. I was very, very confused with them. So you tighten this collar up, and this wrench doesn't really fit in here that well. And now it don't move. So now your collar's all good. There's that. We're ready to go. What y'all think? Then we'll go measure our fuel pump hanger assembly real quick and see if we got to take it back apart. All right, and just like before, you'll weasel the sock in first. And once the sock goes all the way in, the rest of the pump will typically fall through. But we'll see how good this goes. Because I didn't, oh, that actually fell in pretty dang nice. Looks like I'm actually going to have to take it back apart though, because it is just barely touching. So let's do that. All right, attempt number 2. Let's see if I can screw it up twice. So the difference here I've done is I cut the zip ties off, and I used a hose clamp. Don't clamp your hose clamp too tight, because it will crush this line and you won't have a return. And you'll have a whole new problem if you do that. That's the good thing about the zip ties. But it's not going nowhere. I mean, it's solid as it is, so we're good there. Retightened all the hose clamps, reconnected our electrical plug, and we cut this thing down 3/8 of an inch. Because my dumb self didn't pay attention to the thickness of the gasket and all that good stuff. I was thinking it was thicker than it was. And yeah, it's okay. Always better to be too long than not long enough. So let's see if it fits. Drop in, drop in. Uh-oh. I have a new issue. Hose clamp might not work. We might have to go with zip ties. All right, third time's a charm. After all, I've done like 8 of these and never had a problem. I don't know why. I can't get this one to work on camera. So first one I've done on camera, I screw up like 3 times. So now, looks like we're gonna be just fine. We set it in here. It doesn't hit the bottom of the tank. That's always good. Put a screw in. Once the screw goes through, it's really tight to get a screw through there. Okay. And we'll do the same thing on this other side over here. All right, fuel pump's installed. Sorry about that. The camera died halfway through that run, but we're installed now. We've got these 2 lines here now that we got to run, which I've got on the wrong side of the stud there. We're going to bring them around this side. And we'll make 2 lines that'll come down. I'll bring you over here. We're going to make 2 more fuel lines that'll come off of here. Once the tank goes ready to go in the car, we'll do that, because they'll come off this, cut down, and sit about right here probably. And that's it. And they'll go into the fuel filter regulator. It's going to mount somewhere in the vicinity over here, and I run the lines up the driver's side, because in most cases on the LS motor, the fuel line's on the driver's side. So I think on this particular one, we're doing a stock truck intake and all, so the fuel line's almost guaranteed to be on the driver's side. I just don't know if I have to run 2 lines up it or not. But that's how you build a tank sink fuel system. Now this tank is ready to go in the car, minus the 2 fittings here. And on this particular setup, it needs, I don't know what size they are. 1/4 MPT to a 6AN fitting, I think. I'll post a link on the tank sink kit or a CPP kit or something very similar to it. Actually, I have the link for Summit for this exact tank. And then I'll also post a link to these little fittings, as well as put what they are right here under the screen, because, you know, want to help somebody maybe in the future. So this is how you assemble the tank. Tank's ready to go in the car now, minus, I don't know, about 4 more screws. But as always, like, share, comment, subscribe. I read all the comments, answer all the comments. You know, I enjoy the interaction with the viewers. So if you got any more questions for me, any concerns, anything I did wrong, hey, you know, I like learning stuff just like the next guy. So I showed you how to test the fuel sending unit in this video, and we've assembled this and the fuel sending unit. So only thing left is to do the rollover valve, which will link here. I'll bring you back in. Only thing left is to link the rollover valve, which will link to these 2 the vents right here, and go up here on the frame somewhere, and then there's 2 fuel lines that come out. But the hard part's done now. That's all that really matters. So catch you on the next one. Later.